Love Always Self. We have an exciting announcement. We have been working diligently for the past few months to create our website, and we are excited to announce that we have officially launched lovealwaysself.com. On our website, you will find opportunities to join our community to receive updates and announcements of new content and future offerings, channeled messages from Mount Glass, expanded discussions of topics from our weekly episodes, and a marketplace so you can purchase products we've created, as well as other favorited products we use to expand our awareness and consciousness. Soon, we will be adding on our own Patreon to offer monthly member-only exclusive content. So check us out today at lovealwaysself.com. Yeah!
Hi.
Hello, hello. Happy day.
Happy days. Welcome to Love Always Self. I am Shira.
And I'm Karista. And I'm so glad you're here. And I'm so excited about this topic today. I'm a little nervous because it's a lot of information, but I hope it stretches your noodle a little bit.
We're going to stretch some noodles. Let's do this. Let's do
So
this.
today, we wanted to talk about some of the science that supports interconnectedness or the collective conscious, and how this supports the theory of distance healing and psychic abilities. So I think Shira and I have had several questions from friends and family members about, you know, how is this a thing? Is this like just a random gift that, occurs on an individual basis? Does it just like wham, hit you one morning and you're like, whoa, like I'm connected. I know things I shouldn't know or didn't expect to know. But um, we don't believe that that's just a gift, right? It is actually something that you can learn and practice and develop. So
Which is exactly what I did.
ta-da!
Ta-da! And that is, and I'm sure on previous podcasts, like your episodes that we've recorded, I have stated, I don't normally say that I have a gift, right? I normally say I learned an ability that we all have, and now I've been learning how to practice that. Um so yeah.
So I kind of consider it like, how we have our five senses, taste, smell, hearing, touch, all the other one, I'm missing one. But we have the five senses. This is, the sixth sense or another sense that we haven't necessarily learned to practice or dive deeper into, to strengthen those senses. So when we don't connect with that, when we don't practice it, we, not to say we don't have it or lose it, it's just not well tuned or developed.
Or yeah,
So
or not like front and centered, or it's maybe like numbed a bit or something,
yeah, I think that's
because
a great way to put it.
there's also a lot of people out there that have this since the day they were born, and they've stuck with it. Maybe they were in a bit of a more supportive environment to do that, or they weren't in a supportive environment, but they said, we don't care about that, and I'm just going to continue with these abilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's all sorts of, different situations for everyone that has these, you know, experiences or abilities. And some people just learn how to do it. We want to share that there's a lot of science behind what we're doing and what we've learned and what we are continuing to practice, and maybe reduce the thought process a little bit of it being so
Taboo or
taboo, or yeah, or like
woo woo or
right, whatever name.
mystical or witchy or I don't know. Like, yeah, we're not pulling
Right.
rabbits out of a hat by any means, but we are definitely connecting with that intuitive gut feeling, right? That's kind of one of the examples of intuition is you just get a gut feeling that something's going to happen or just something isn't right or you shouldn't walk that path, but should walk down the other one instead. So uh, that's just, again, saying we all have those senses, those moments, those thoughts where we're like, who wonder where that came from. Like deja vu is another example.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Yeah.
so, and as far as the science, right, this is still a new realm in which science is exploring, because it's not something easy to um, monitor or experiment with, because I think a lot of it is subjective information. So while there is definite science backing, there's a lot more to learn and to understand. And just because we can't prove it right now with our limited senses, our limited scientific ability, does not mean that it's not valid. Because tell me, if you can disprove it, then maybe I'll think otherwise. But
Right.
until you can disprove it, it's still definitely a possibility. It's kind of like God, right? You can't prove it. You can't. It exists, but you also can't prove it. It doesn't.
Right.
So,
Oh
um,
boy.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, should we throw a trigger warning?
Oh man.
So, um,
So, one of the studies that I found very interesting, that just kind of shows that we're all connected, is the twin photon experiment. And this was done somewhere in Geneva in like the 1990s, where they took a photon and separated it into two particles and sent them far apart from each other, like 7 miles or
7 miles, I think. Yeah.
kilometers, something like that, something pretty far. And what they did was they tested, if they um, messed with, almost threw an F-bomb there. If they messed with one photon, what would happen to the other one? And what they found was, if they, impacted this photon, the other photon immediately showed the same effect as the original one. So it's saying that if you do something to this one also has the same effect. So they are connected. Doesn't matter the distance, right?
Right.
So we are energetic beings, right? We're energetic beings having a physical experience. And that means that whatever I say or do about myself, say I say something mean about myself, I am not only impacting myself, but I'm also impacting others around me. And same thing if I say something bad about you, Shira, right? I am negatively impacting you, whether or not you hear it, whether or not you feel it, whether or not you experience it somewhere in your energetic being, it's impacting you.
Which is interesting because you know how sometimes when you get this sense of someone that you are maybe a bit more connected to than others, and you're just like, I'm gonna call somebody or so and so today. I don't know why. I just feel like maybe something's off, you know? And you call them and you find out that like they've been upset or they've had a
Mm-hmm.
tragedy or whatever, like that's kind of that's in the realm of that of what you're
Yeah.
talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, some of you may have heard of a philosopher, Carl Jung, who actually coined the term collective unconsciousness, and even, went as far to say that we are connected on this um, other thought level that we can't visualize. So, one of the sorry, I'm moving your face out of the way.
Over here, over here.
So, one of the theories that he presented was that we have actual ancestral uh, patterns that are passed on through, generation to generation. And this, not only, how do I say this? Gosh, help me out, Shire.
So is this
Um,
like in the sense of like how ancestral trauma can be captured in memory in your DNA and
mhm, mhm,
passed on and
mhm,
can
mhm.
even affect your present
Yes,
and things that
yes,
are occurring on with you in this time and
yeah.
space or
Mhm,
illusioned.
mhm.
time and space.
Yeah, so these types of characteristics are almost like imprinted as a result of evolution. So some people would say, oh, that's just like a pattern, a top pattern. But what about like as, the generations move on, several lineages, and we still have these patterns. Is that saying that we're not connected, or is that saying like,
Yeah, I mean, so I'm gonna go on the if we wanted to, I'm not a big on the divide, but if we're gonna divide it up between like the actual spiritual scientific,
mhm, mhm,
um, you know, combo here, right? So the research that has been done, the information that's been passed based on those, actual studies or peer-reviewed studies, in comparison to the things that I've just learned or tapped into, and while I'm, having a conversation with my class or learning from others that are spiritual teachers or whatever, uh, there is a direct correlation, and I learned this when I did my past life regression, right?
mhm,
I went in during uh, that hypnotherapy session, right? Because that's what a past life regression session is. They put you in a state of hypnosis, and you tap into the memories or consciousness of your past lives, right? And when I did that and I learned about some of the experiences that I had in my past life, I also learned that I was directly connected to experiences that I was having in this life, and it was affecting
mhm,
me, even to my health. And that actually showed itself up, which is interesting. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, the aftermath of the past life of the PLR, we're going to call it PLR, we're going to acronym it like we do everything else. And the trauma that I experienced, like one of my ways that I had died in a past life, was by stabbing in my stomach.
mhm,
And
mhm,
I have a lot of intestinal stomach issues in this life. And there was a reason I was shown that, because it showed me that connection. And that area where I was stabbed at also happens to be where I got cervical cancer. So
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, there's so many weird connections when it comes to things like that, and that does happen, which is why they offer, which is why therapists offer, like, these types of past life regression sessions, so you can work on those traumas that you have had even in past lives, or even just in the past of your own current life. So it's
Mhm,
fascinating. It's
mhm.
absolutely fascinating.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I was even reading, I don't think it's a study, but an amalgamation of studies and information. The article is called "Scientific and Spiritual Implications of Psychic Abilities," and all of these little studies, will link everything so that you can do your own research. And we are showing our resources, but basically in this paper, it talks about how the belief that you know time is an illusion, right? So everything is happening all at once. The past, the future, the present is all happening at once. And when we get these like dreams and it feels like something that's happening in the future, right? And we wake up and then we experience something from that dream. It's like the future is coming in to tell us, to guide us, and then that actually calls into question. In this paper, it even talks about this, how we can impact our health now by looking back at our inner child or our past self, and actually focusing on healing some of those past traumas or illnesses, even starting at like the seeded point of time when these things began. And that can actually help to improve healing from these illnesses and traumas. And I think that's just absolutely
It
fascinating
is
that
fascinating.
we're reading this on paper, not just as like a theory, but as this is, what we're seeing, that there is unsurmountable evidence that, you can influence your future self, or past self, which can influence the now, or influence the now, which can affect the past self or the future self. It's
And what's and we're just going to take it up a notch, right? So literally, if you hear somebody that says, I've had traumas in my past, or I grew up and I had like a hard childhood, and somebody tells them to send that younger self love, right?
mm-hmm,
And keeping in mind that, we believe, and trust me, I really believe this, that you can, because in what I've been shown, it's all happening simultaneously. The things that we perceive as a past, the
mm-hmm,
things that we perceive as the future, um, has all already played out or still playing out, and it's all kind of like, it's almost as if it's running in parallel to each other, right?
mm-hmm,
And our focus, our consciousness is focused on this exact time, this now, every now moment, every single now moment, every time I do anything, it's focused in this now moment, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So when we say, send love to your younger self, your intention, your thought with your intention and emotion behind it, that is actually happening. And so the rest of that younger selves play out, it does affect them. And so when you go and you attempt to heal your traumas from your perceived past, you are doing that. You are healing that. And it does impact you even in the present, even in the now moment.
Right.
It's crazy. It's absolutely amazing
I
to
mean,
see that.
there's actually quite a bit of research that shows that a person's thoughts can impact their physiological functioning,
Mm.
of themselves, of even a distant person, so somebody that they're not physically nearby. Which actually brings me to a term that I learned. It's called non-locality, and basically this is supported by that twin photon experiment that I mentioned earlier, where there's a surprising coherence between distant entities. So, again, if you do something to one photon, it impacts the other one. So, if you do something to one person, it's going to impact all the people because we're all connected. So, it's
Man.
interesting because it's even mentioned in this study or this paper that psychic abilities and remote viewing are demonstrations of our personal experience with non-local connection in consciousness.
I'm going to tell you a fascinating story. Let's do this. Let's deep dive. This might be a long one. Sorry. So this is a fascinating situation. When I was out during my surgery, and I, for the first time in my entire life, had no other choice but to just sit still and do nothing else besides maybe watch TV, play on my laptop, whatever I could handle as far as in a setup position, right? I decided to start doing a lot more. I mean, because I was highly motivated to learn how to heal myself, like highly motivated. Um, and so I had taken a course to start learning about more about me. What am I capable of, right? Just simply asking the question, what am I capable of? There's all these fascinating, stories from other people learning how to tap into this thing called unconsciousness or consciousness or whatever.
Mhm.
I want to learn more about it. So it was just a fascination at first. And the first appointment that I had with my coach was to just see, just try to do what'd you call it? The remote viewing, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I was like, okay. I was like, sure. we'll try
Sure,
that.
why not? Yeah.
Why not?
Give it a
Got
little
nothing else
tickle
to do.
tickle.
I'm literally just sitting on this couch. So like, yeah. So, I closed my eyes and, and she was like, okay, and she kind of walked me through a meditation just to simply calm my mind and, clear my mind and things like that. It was not complicated at all. And it took maybe a 5-minute meditation at the most. And then I just started getting these like mental images in my head, right? Like when you remember a photo from your past so well, and that you can give yourself every detail of when that photo was taken, what was going on and playing out around you during that, when that picture was taken, like you just remember it that well.
Mhm.
It's like that, but at the same time, it's moving, right? It's in motion. So I guess, day and age nowadays, we all have videos on our phones. So if you can remember a video that you took of like a friend's party or something, and you like are doing this like selfie video and you're like, oh my God, remember that video we took when we were doing, blah, 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 or we like, had some fireball shots or whatever. I don't know.
Oh
And
my God, it's
I
been so
know.
long.
So, so don't do those.
Mm.
And it's like that, right? So I started getting these images of, this like airplane, like a toy airplane, and like a cartoon poster, and like all this stuff. Mind you, the person I was talking to, I've never been to her house. She's in a completely different state than I live in.
You've never actually met her in person,
Never
just
met her in
on
person.
Zoom and on the phone. Yeah.
Right. The only thing I could see was her face and her shoulders and above, and a bookshelf that's behind her, and that's it. That's all I could see. And I'm describing everything that's coming to my head that I'm kind of getting this like mental image of, that like how I just described. And she's like, "You're in my son's room." Which is directly above her office. I was describing everything in her son's room. She's like, okay, now I want you to visualize that you're coming out the door and you're taking a left and you're going down the stairs and you're going into the first door on your right. And so that's what I was doing. She's like, now when you walk into that door on your right, I want you to tell me what you see. So I start describing the chair. I start describing that it was fuzzy, which turns out there was a blanket, there was a furry blanket on it. I started describing the bookshelf. I even started describing some of the things on the shelf, that she would get up, grab it off the shelf, and come show me. And I was like, oh my God. I even described that her blinds were not all the way down on her windows, and she had it pulled slightly up. So after that session, I sat back and I had this moment of, oh my freaking word, that just happened. Like it took me a while to like register what just took place, but at the same time, it immediately dawned on me, anybody can do this. Anybody can do this. This is not just I'm not this like, oh, special, like, I mean, I'm special, whatever. But like, any single one of us can do this. We all have the capabilities of doing this. I mean, take it that there's even a CIA document about this.
And what was interesting was the CIA document was released right around the same time that you did this session with your coach. And the CIA documents are called the Gateway Project, and I'll link those as well. But basically, it was like a 20-30 year study of the government seeing if remote viewing is a plausible way of spying on other countries and corporations. And without a doubt, they were able to prove that this is a real thing. That they had people remote viewing from San Francisco to Russia, and in detail, almost in a sometimes in a like a blueprint accuracy of being able to describe the place and the building and the things inside of it. And I what
And this is the thing that like, ooh, it fires me up, because I'm just like, when that came out, and it was after my experience, it was so validating. I was
Yeah.
like, look, we're not freaking crazy. We're not making this up. This isn't just some woo woo thing that everybody has like thrown into this, like, not everybody, but like the good chunk of people have put into a category of, okay,
Yeah.
and it is something that is actually viable. It is real. It is as real as you can possibly get it. And
Hmm. Hmm.
here are all these people just waking up to the fact that we have this ability within us and we can activate it whenever we feel like it. We just need to remember, need to
Yeah.
learn.
The paper that I read today, that I'm also going to, connect in or put down there. The gentleman, one of the people that wrote this was actually one of the people that was a co-founder of the CIA secret program. And so, he even mentioned that from years of experience, people can quickly learn to do remote viewing and can frequently incorporate this direct knowing of the world, both present and future, into their lives. So that right there is just saying that Joe Schmo can do it. You just have to put your
Dude, I just remembered something. I just watched, I think it's on Peacock. The app, I can't remember. Is that a CBS station? I can't remember. Anyway,
NBC.
NBC. Okay. So, let's call it the Peacock app. And Demi Lovato has like a 4 episode series. Now she's doing like UFO hunting and stuff like that, right? But like, she actually learns in one session how to do remote viewing. In one session, like,
Wow.
yeah. She shows the whole thing. It was very. I was like, that's what I'm talking about, right
Oh, I'm
freaking
gonna have to look
there.
that up. I didn't even
Yeah,
realize that. Like, I want to practice this. Yeah, I want to do this, but I can't do this with you because I know what's in your room. So,
I know.
you're gonna have to like go somewhere and not tell me where. And
Well, so one of the things she said to do if you want to practice this. This is a good example. Uh, is you can have somebody in another room move something or place something in another room,
mm,
and then you just sit within that visualization and try and either describe what it is that you see. You can use your senses as well, taste, touch, emotion. Because that's one of the things within remote viewing that you can also do is
mm,
sense the emotional state of it. So if somebody is in another room and is constantly thinking about, relaxation, space, calm, you know? And then whatever those words that come to your head or that emotional state, you write that down. And so when you
mm.
guys get back together, then you can say, what is it that you wrote down in that emotional. So the remote viewing doesn't have to just be a visual. It can also be an emotional. It can be a smell. It can be a taste. It can be a touch. Uh,
Okay,
like
so
that
you
kind of
remember our
thing.
last episode, right? Incorporating play. Can we play with this?
Yes, let's do that. Let's totally do that. That'd be so much fun.
Yes, yes. So, one thing that I just think is really interesting as well is that it talks about even Einstein and his understanding of space and time, and mentioning that our consciousness is outside of that. It elevates beyond that. It's gosh, I love
Yeah.
science. It's so fascinating, but basically mystics have been saying this for three millennia, but what Einstein ultimately came up with was that separation is an illusion and we are all in one in spirit or in consciousness.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty profound to have a scientist
I
have that
agree.
revelation.
I agree. And this is something that um when I say I'm tapping into something, or if I am doing even a reading for someone, and so for
Hmm.
those of you
Hmm.
that don't know that, because that might be new information to you for some of our listeners, but yes, I have learned how to tap into consciousness that is not of my own. So that does include whether they are in a physical form or not. So when I am tapping into that consciousness, though, usually the way it's experienced for me, and it could be different for everybody. There's no perfect way for this. So like, I am getting a personality, right? I feel and I sense someone's personality just like I would sense if I were to say, I would like to, ask if I asked my husband the question, what's my favorite ice cream, right? And I can already tell you the way his face would move, the way he speaks, the kind of tone he would have behind his voice and the personality that attached with it. It's a lot like that, right? So
Mm.
like I get that kind of information in my head. And that in itself is almost just like you're just connecting to the level of consciousness in which they're just directing into a very finite point in time in which they existed in that physical. Um, so it's kind of it's interesting. It's very interesting. It's very complex, when you think about it. But at the same time, when you learn how to do it, it becomes so fluid and so easy. And you're just like, wow, this is real. And I keep getting proven over and over again because I still question it, right? Like I still have these moments of like, because again, I learned how to do this. I wasn't born knowing how to do it, right? So learning that at 40 is anyway. So um it fascinates me because the validation that I have received when and hopefully she's cool with me talking about this, but one of the people I was just randomly talking to, I started picking up this person's face, right? And there's details, like they were pointing me to details of like the facial hair and this like smirk that they would do, and the way the cheek would like crescent when they smirk to the side, and like and then I like immediately just like heard in my head, not out loud, not hearing 1920, and like and I was getting these like type of details, like a green beer bottle, like was just like a thought. These were thoughts that were just popping into my head. So I just decided to say, I'm just gonna say what's coming to my head right now. I don't care if it sounds crazy. I'm gonna like release that fear, right? And so I just started saying it, and then I started hearing names, and I said the name, and as soon as I said the name, she like was like, "What?" and like got up, came back, showed me a picture of the person that I was just describing with the smile and the cheek indentation and everything. And the picture was taken in the 1920s. And the name was the exact name that I had just given. And I get chills just talking about this because it's like you can't get more validated than that. And that was the first time I've ever seen that, right? That's the first time someone showed me an actual photo of what I was just doing.
We're literally living in this like non-local spider web of energy, of space and time.
Right.
Where both the past and the future are, tugging on or affecting the now.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that we are really exploring this. And I'm so excited about you developing your abilities, and I will get there too.
Yes. Yes. And that's the thing, like as much as I also want to make sure that I say, being in the present, experiencing the present, there's a lot of reasons why we're here to do that. We're also still here to remember that connectivity that we all have, right? And that there is so much more than just the everyday mundane things that we experience, the things that make us feel bad or hurt. There's so much more than that. And when you start to learn, so if somebody asks me why, right? Like, why would you want to continue down this path? Why would you want to learn these types of things? It has a lot to do with that. It has a lot to do with the fact that like there's people out there that are having these types of experiences that they don't understand. Like they're like, what in the French toast? Am I crazy? Do I need to be put
Mhm.
on pills for this? Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and they think that there's something wrong with them.
Or they're
Um,
broken.
or they're
Mhm.
broken. Right. And so there's a lot of that has a lot to do with not fully being trained to
Or
understand that,
aware.
or
Yeah.
aware that you can tap into streams of consciousness,
Mhm.
universal
Mhm.
consciousness beyond
Mhm.
that. Uh,
And even impact other people's wellness,
mhm.
from far away,
Or your own.
or
Right.
your own. I
Right.
mean, there's several studies listed in this where people experienced, maybe not necessarily improved health, but they didn't have as negative, or they didn't decline like people in the control group, or that they subjectively experienced a better outcome, or even
Mm.
quantitative information where they didn't go to the doctors as much, they didn't develop as many communicable diseases or illnesses, or secondary infections or hospitalizations or whatnot. And this is scientific data, this is actual numbers data, supporting this kind of
Man.
thing. And it's shown over and over and over again, to the point where, like, 20th century science is saying that our thoughts affect others, that we are all interconnected through our consciousness, and we are never alone in experiencing you know the effects of our own thoughts and actions. I mean, okay, whether or not you
So
believe
wild.
in God creating the universe, or believe in the Big Bang, right? I'm circling back around to that first experiment. If we all started at one point, right, whether that was God or Big Bang, right, we all started as one, and then whoosh, right, the universe and all the stars and everything. But just like that twin photon experiment, you know, what happens with one of us is affecting the collective, which brings me back to the ability to heal, each other, and sure, woo, with love, with the intention of
Right.
love and healing.
Yeah.
I love this.
Which is
Um,
also part of your thoughts create your
mhm,
reality
mhm,
statements that are
mhm.
said, right?
Yeah.
And this probably is a different episode, but we can talk about the parallel realities that are all playing out in an infinite number, and how you tap into that. And a lot of people call that, um, a lot of people perceive it as manifestation.
Mhm, mhm.
We'll talk about that in another episode. That's
Mm-hmm.
wild.
Yeah, yeah, and actually, I want to read this little excerpt. Right, mindful of the non-local nature of our universe, it was conjectured that our healing intentions may achieve their goal by reaching backward in time to affect critical seed moments in alternate future pathways of the development of the illness. This suggests that early moments may be more liable or label, and hence more susceptible avenues of change in intercessory distant healing. Therefore, the idea of backward causation, you know,
Dang.
viewing your inner child, viewing yourself at the point of trauma, viewing yourself at the initiation of illness or even before that, and focusing, putting your intention towards healing those seeded moments, can affect the now and the future.
Like, like,
Yeah, mind blown.
mind
Mind
blown.
blown. Now there's one other really cool study that I want to make sure that we mention before we close out, because this is a really exciting episode, and I know we could go on for a long
Dude,
time about just like
hours.
what, mind blown.
Freaking hours.
But there was actually, and this is just to further support that our intentions, our words, our thoughts are impacting us at a cellular level and impacting others as well. Um, our bodies, right, are made of 60 to 70% of water. Okay, this is
Oh,
a
I
known
love
fact.
this
Yeah.
study. Yes.
So there's a gentleman named Dr. Emoto who did several studies on water and the effects of words on water. And this was done, 20 something years ago. So in the 1990s. And there's several YouTube videos on this, and we'll link our favorite, and even one of the websites that discusses and shows different pictures of the water and how the words affect it. So what they ended up doing was writing different words in all different languages and taping them to the outside of beakers of water, all the same type of water. And the words ranged from positive, positive words, friendship, love, support, kindness, um, connectedness, to more negative words like anger, frustration, divisiveness, other violent, aggressive words. And they freezed these beakers of water. And again, the words were in all different languages. And what they noticed with the frozen water is that with the positive affirmation type words, the loving, natured words, is that this water, it froze in these beautiful symmetrical formations that were
Look like
like
snowflakes.
crystalline and
Yeah.
snowflakes and just these magnificent, frozen structures. And the negative words, what happened was the when it froze, what they saw was very erratic and just disorganized and disoriented almost. So it was showing that when we have these positive affirmations, we are improving our structure and function at a cellular level, whereas these negative words are actually damaging and disorienting, creating imbalances or dis-ease throughout the body. And it just goes to show you that the words that you speak to yourself or think to yourself, the words you say to others or think of others, no matter the distance, are causing an impact, either positive or negative. So I want to bring up that golden rule: do unto others as you wish them to do unto you. And I may have not stated that exactly, but whatever, you get the gist of it.
Ah, I love it. I love it. Which is
So
also why we talk about positive affirmations.
yes, you read my mind. You took the words right out of my mouth.
Which is one of the epic reasons why our entire thing is called Love Always Self.
Self. Sorry, it's so exciting. Sorry, not sorry. I'm excited.
We're pumped. Get on board. I love it.
All right. So
oh my goodness.
Yes. I nerd out a little bit and I love it. This is exciting for me. And I can't wait to read more on this. I know we're still limited in our understanding, but we are not limited in our belief, in our faith, in our knowing, our inner knowing.
Yeah.
So if you have more questions, I encourage you to check out these websites, check out these links, check out these studies, and let us know if you have any other questions, because we like to deep dive too.
Yes. And she's really good at finding things out. I'm all, prove it. She's like, okay. And then the next thing I know, I have like a whole lot of things to look at. I'm like, yes, you did prove it.
So again, everybody, everybody, you are all able and have these abilities, have these connections. It's just, are you willing to tap in? Are you willing to take the time, create the space, and be open?
All right.
Any last words, Shy Bear?
You know, it's taken quite a bit of removing the fear of judgment
Mm-hmm.
to come out and say I have a psychic ability. I've learned how to be a psychic. I've learned how to do remote viewing. I've learned how to tap into consciousness that's not of my perceived own, right? It takes a lot of courage for me to say that. A lot of trying really hard to remove the fear of it. Um, it helps to understand from my perspective the science behind the studies that have been done and peer reviewed that are associated with the things that I have learned thus far. And I feel like it's going to help others understand more where we come from, that not necessarily only looking at it from a pure moment, right? We are tapping into things just because we were curious and because we want to help. And that's literally where a majority of our basis is coming from, is from curiosity, wanting to learn more, not only about ourselves, but help others do the exact same thing and share as much of that knowledge and information as we possibly can. And we're excited to have every single one of these listeners, every single one of you viewers, and we can't wait to share more.
I have so many other thoughts running through my head about like the different like rules of thermodynamics and like
oh my gosh,
like supporting energetic beings, the fact that we are energy beings first and foremost, having a physical experience, and not only that, but thoughts and emotions are also energy, and we are constantly sharing that energy and shooting it out all over the place. And again, the first law of thermodynamics is that energy cannot be destroyed, it can only change.
boom.
And so that energy, the thought energy, is being shared, is being distributed, and it's those that are tapping into that intuition, into the psychic abilities, into the collective consciousness, that are willing to receive and communicate those pieces of information, those energetic pew.
What is that?
Pew pew. The little energetic thoughts that are bouncing around and the feelings and everything like that. Little science, a little pew pew.
Little finger guns. Pew, pew, pew.
All right.
We wouldn't be us if we weren't silly,
Again, don't forget to play.
Right? Don't forget to play.
Oh my gosh. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us and for loving us. And, we appreciate you guys so much. And we're so excited to just be here every week with you. And we just got warm fuzzies all the time. So we love you so much. And don't forget
to love first,
love last,
and love always. We're going to get that right one of these days.
One of these days. Y'all have a great day.
Bye.
Hey, listener, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this moment. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to it.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to stay notified of new content from Love Always Self. If you have any questions or topics you'd like for us to discuss, please hit us up on any of our social media platforms linked in the show notes below.
I'm Karista.
And I'm Shira.
And until next time, remember to love first,
love last,
and love always. Love Always Self podcast is meant for entertainment purposes only. We do not make any warranties about the completeness, reliability, and accuracy of the information presented in this podcast. Any action you choose to take upon the information in this podcast is strictly done so at your own risk, and we will not be held liable for any losses and damages in connection with the use of our podcast. Any and all medical concerns should be addressed with a licensed healthcare provider, as well as any questions that may be derived from the information discussed in this podcast.